Welcome, everyone. We are so excited that you are here tonight. We do want to wait a few minutes before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's conversation because we have really wonderful information about some of the special programs happening for our first year students in the fall. While we wait for everyone to join the link, let me just say my name is Courtney. I am our Senior Associate Dean and one of our Directors of Admission. I'm joined right now by one of my fellow admission officers.
Hey everyone, my name is Julius. I am an admission counselor here at Oxy, as well as an alum of the college, and it is so fun to be with you after you've decided to commit to Oxy. We really appreciate the summer as a time to just get excited together about all that is to come sooner than it feels. Certainly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's going to go really fast this summer. So you're going to be hearing a lot from us and hopefully seeing a lot of us. We want to make sure we're answering questions, and we'll be offering these online webinars for really kind of big areas that we know take a lot of explanation and expertise, such as the special programs we're describing tonight. One thing to talk first about before we invite our faculty forward is just another quick overview of what a first year seminar is. Because two of the areas that our special programs include is that they each offer a first year seminar as part of the immersive semester of more than one course. So Julius, would you like to just take a stab at describing a first year seminar for anyone who hasn't yet had the opportunity to take one at Oxy?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that's so exciting about Oxy is that students are coming in from so many different high schools, different academic experiences, and that is great, and we love that. And we like to make sure that in your first year, everyone has the opportunity to really make sure we are all writing and doing college level research and on the same page, that we understand what resources are available to us through the academic commons, that we really understand how to craft a compelling written argument in the form of a research paper. And so these first year seminars are designed to bring everyone up to the same level and get you comfortable again doing that, writing 5-page, 6-page papers on a weekly basis, 8-page midterms, maybe even a 10 or 12-page final paper. But these are not your traditional intro to writing or writing seminars. We have a lot of fun with curating and crafting what these first year seminars are. To start with there, I was going to say, do you want to jump in, Courtney?
Fun fact, yes. Did you know this year there are 2 first year seminars being taught by a former Oxy president? So not every school certainly makes that available. There's also classes with a range of topics, from comics to monsters to Socratic philosophy and scientific methods. And even more exciting than all that, if it could be possible, I really think are these 2 special programs. So those of you joining now, and I want to just remind everyone, we will share the recording of this session. It will be posted on the new student website tomorrow. So don't worry about memorizing everything we say. There will be lots of opportunities to be able to review it again. We will also be sharing links in the chat. Julius will make sure you have all the links of everything that's being discussed. And if you have questions for us or for our panelists, you can use the Q&A feature in the Zoom. So with that, we're going to first invite Professor Mary Christianakis to tell you about the California immigration semester.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. You all have probably just graduated high school. So from one thing to the next right away, I am going to share my screen and explain to you the California immigration semester. We developed this program, I think it was something like 12 years ago, in response to much of the anti-immigration sentiment that was going on in California and in the nation at the time. And since then, things have not gotten all that much better. So I'm going to describe to you the semester and what it looks like. It's different from the first year seminar in that it involves a commitment to 3 more classes. These 3 classes will be taught by me. I'm in a department called Critical Theory and Social Justice. My area is language, literacy, and culture as related to schooling. Viviana McManus, who is in the Spanish department, teaches Spanish literature and film. And then there's Richard Mora, who's in the sociology department, and he teaches youth cultures. He teaches classes on violence and policing, in addition to a bunch of other classes. So those are the faculty that teach these four courses. The first course that we teach together is your FYS, your first year seminar, and that's going to be called Immigrant Communities of California, and all of us teach in that. I take the lead in that because my PhD area, my area of research is writing, and so I promise you that we will work on the development of your writing for academic writing. We will look at different discourses of academic writing and have lots of practice to make sure that you are a strong and articulate writer by the end. Sociology 105, taught by Professor Mora, is going to focus on immigrant youth and youth cultures, the ways in which immigrant youth and youth cultures shape the experiences of young people today. Professor McManus will teach Rancho Hollywood. So she's going to teach how Hollywood and LA specifically have shaped the film industry and shaped the life and the community of Los Angeles. And I'm going to, in CTSJ 105, I'm going to zoom out and look at federal immigration and education law and the ways in which it's shaped opportunity for schooling. If you notice, I'm just going to circle with my mouse here. Sociology satisfies US diversity, global connections is with Spanish 105, and CTSJ is also US diversity. So those are the four classes. In the first year seminar, we used to call it CSP. You're going to look at, I'm going to start off the semester. We're going to look at the socio-historic, the legal, and the cultural tensions around immigration in the US. It's ever more relevant now with people putting forth the idea of replacement theory, that immigrants are going to somehow come and replace us all, even those of us that are already immigrants, but that they're going to come in, they are going to come and take over. In the context of that learning, you're going to hone your writing skills, your argumentation, and your presentation skills. So there's going to be a variety of different things that you're going to do in this course, and I'll go over some of that in a couple of slides, in a few slides. In Soc 105 with Professor Mora, you're going to look at youth cultures, identity formation of immigrants and adolescents. You're gonna sort of critique theories of acculturation and assimilation. That means like fitting in to the US society and what that might mean for your home country language, for example. You're gonna explore geography and gender and race and sexuality as it intersects with popular culture, mass media, technology, and just in general, community and public life. And then you're going to take a deep dive into youth cultures, home cultures, and mainstream society, particular groups of immigrants in that class. It's actually a really fun and exciting class. Spanish 105, you're going to be analyzing narrative and the idea of narrative in stories and films as it has emerged out of the history of immigration in the US, but specifically Los Angeles. You're going to look at the sort of social and historical contexts that brought about certain immigrant positions and changes, and the ways in which Hollywood and LA was formed around immigration. So from that, we hope that you understand Los Angeles as a very heterogeneous cultural place and space. And then in my class, you're going to, in immigration and education, you're going to learn about the legislative and cultural debates about what it means to be American and who has a right to education, who has a right to learn in schools. We will explore and debate precedent-setting Supreme Court cases. We're going to research anti-immigrant language movements in California, Arizona, and Colorado. And then we're going to take a close look at different immigrant communities through ethnographic or anthropological research that details children and their families as they go through schooling. So those are the four classes. The first class will be team taught. The remaining three will be taught by each of the individual professors. So How you'll learn and interact. We actually spend a lot of time planning together. So we try not to, for example, give you things that are due on the same day. We try to sequence our curriculum so that when you've learned something in one class, it builds on something, or it builds towards something you're going to learn in another class over time. So you're going to learn how to do debates. You're going to have response groups, election teams. You're going to do peer review of your work. You're going to learn how to listen and take notes in a lecture, which seems easy, but it's actually, requires some skill and some planning. You're going to do film analysis, visual and cultural analysis, legal analysis, and we hope to have you in a public school, even if it's virtual. The kinds of assignments you're going to have: expository and analytic essays. You're going to create videos for political campaigns and political position statements for presidential candidates. And in this case, you're not going to do it for a presidential candidate, you're going to do it for representatives. And you're going to do case study analyses, debates, court case analyses, and you're going to do a self-ethnography. So those are some of the assignments that you will be engaging in. So here, we've been doing this so long, and I'm just going to share something joyful toward the end. What our CIS, we started off this CIS actually with triple the work, but we've now culled it down to something that we think is much more manageable and that students will enjoy more and get more out of. So they report being better prepared. We have data that shows that students from the CIS have a better GPA and better completion of college at the end of the 4 years. And some of the areas that students have gone into are law, teaching, immigration, research, public policy, nonprofit activism, and governmental work. And before I go on, I just want to say that it was so joyful for me. About 2 weeks ago, we had an alum, her name is Eleni Durrett, and she just finished, she was in our first cohort of CIS, and she just finished her PhD over in New York. And so it was just so joyful to see, after working with, we all get very close, we all keep in touch. She invited us onto her dissertation presentation. It's just joyful to see the kinds of work that people are doing as they leave the college and enter into real life. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Professor Morrissey, who's going to tell you about the other special program.
Awesome, thanks so much. I'm so jealous that everybody gets to take your class. Professor Shinakis, I want to go back. Okay, all right. So hi everyone, I'm Claire Morrissey, and I'm here to talk to you about actually two different special programs. And let me give you a little bit of background on it first. So the college, Occidental College, was awarded a grant from the Mellon Foundation to run a new 3-year program called Humanities for Just Communities. It's a collaborative curricular community engaged initiative that is just for first years and is meant to introduce you all to the problem-solving power of the humanities to advance social justice. And so each year has a different theme, and this year the theme is health justice. So there are going to be a number of different courses across campus that are linked to the initiative. So I want you to keep your eyes and ears kind of open for courses and programming throughout the fall. Now, the two special programs I'm going to talk about today are the first year seminar 2, Envisioning and Enacting Health Justice, and then a summer course opportunity. I start with the FYS. So like I said, FYS 2, Envisioning and Enacting Justice, is linked to this bigger program that's funded by the Mellon Foundation. It's going to be an 8-credit course. So whereas the CIS, Professor Krishnakis just explained, is 16 credits, ours is 8 credits. So it's 2 of the 4 courses that would be a full-time or standard load in the fall. It's going to count both as your first year seminar and as a 200 level philosophy and religious studies course. and will satisfy 2 additional core requirements, global connections and pre-1800. So that's a lot of bang for the credits. And we teach the 8 credits as like one big mega course, right? So think of it as kind of like one big course that you're going to 5 times a week rather than 2 separate courses. Like I said, it's team taught by myself and my colleague, Professor Christy Epson-Saya. I'm a faculty member in the philosophy department, and I teach courses in practical ethics and political philosophy. I specialize in bioethics, environmental ethics, and values in science. At the college, I'm also the director of the Undergraduate Research Center, so I spend a lot of time thinking about how best to support students' development as kind of independent knowers. Professor Epson-Saya specializes in late ancient Mediterranean religions and in the history of medicine, health, and healing. She's just finishing up this like awesome new source book on these materials, and she and I have taught together many times and love love doing so, and are so looking forward to the fall. Okay, so what are we going to be doing in the course? The course is going to be structured around a series of case studies on public health, the patient-provider relationship, reproductive health, and end-of-life care. And we're going to show you how the tools of history and philosophy can be used to scrutinize kind of foundational conceptual framings and assumptions about our health and healing practices, our policies, our institutions, and I think this is really crucial, use those tools to envision a better way forward. Right? So throughout, you'll be learning skills for how to communicate your ideas and vision cogently, and students will participate in a social justice project. So especially with the first year seminar, we're going to be doing a lot of writing, but we also have a podcast project. We have a kind of visual representation and argument project. So you're really going to be thinking about like how to communicate cogently. All right, the structure of the course, students will be assigned to a small 12-person section that meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And all 24 students together will attend a class on Monday and Wednesday. So you're going to have both that mix of like small person section and a little bit larger class altogether. Students who are interested in enrolling should complete the interest form. I believe Julius is going to put that in the chat in just a second, by June 10th, right? You can absolutely fill it out after that date, but there might be no seats left. And early next week, and well in advance of when you need to register for your FYS, we'll notify students about whether you have a seat, and all of the information about how to register will be in that email. I just wanted to highlight both an advantage of both the CIS that Professor Kochinakis just talked about and FYS2 is that you're going to get to enroll either in 4 courses or 2 courses on June 20th, right? So that's way in advance of you coming to campus. So you'll have your schedule either totally settled or kind of more settled than usual before you get here. Okay, so that was the first program. The second program is a summer health justice course. And this is a unique opportunity to take a free 1-credit virtual course this summer before you even get here. The course is going to be collectively taught by all of the faculty who are offering health justice courses in the fall. Right, so we're going to introduce students to the ways that humanities disciplines, and here I believe we have history, media arts and culture, music, philosophy, religious studies, and theater, approach the study of human health and illness. Right, and so you can find out more information. Courtney just dropped that in the link, which is a link in the chat, which is fantastic. You can find out more information about exactly what the expectations are and what the course is about there. Just the details of the structure, it's going to run from July 5th to August 5th. And each week there will be 2 different kind of like units taught by different professors in humanities who are offering courses on the theme. Each unit will have a kind of short recorded lecture of 25-30 minutes, a reading and a set of curated reading questions from the professor. And what you'll do is you'll write responses to the reading questions to prepare for a small group discussion that each of the professors will facilitate. So you're going to get both kind of that like lecture-y content stuff, but also that discussion section for each unit. In addition to the faculty, there's also going to be 2 peer mentors who are more advanced students in the humanities who will help facilitate discussion and support you throughout the course. I just think this is such a cool opportunity to meet other first-year students. It's reserved only for first-year students, to meet faculty before you arrive on campus, and to meet one another, like thinking and talking about something that's of deep kind of foundational importance in our communities. So this 1 credit opportunity, you have more time to sign up for. Where the deadline for signing up is June 27th, right? And so Courtney also just put that in the chat and the link there. Okay, I think that that's what I have, and I'm sure that there are questions. We'll stop there.
Awesome. Yes, thank you both so much for sharing about those options. I mean, really, I think that this is why students are driven to a school like Oxy, because we are able to be nimble and flexible and really think about what is happening in the world around us and find classes that are tailored to reflect that and to ask these types of questions. So if you do have questions about either of these programs or things we did say that you would like to hear more about, to our audience members, I definitely encourage you to use the Q&A at the bottom of the screen to communicate that to us. In the meantime, though, we did have a couple of folks who had questions that they're not sure if they're able to make this work for the fall semester because of other conflicts already. And I know that it's exciting that you haven't even started yet and already your schedules are getting full. But you know, for students who can't do it in the fall, either for sports commitments or other commitments, in what ways do you see opportunities like this existing in the spring semester or really throughout students' 4 years? And this can go to either of you, because I think these are themes that folks are really genuinely excited about.
Professor, did you want to answer that, or would you like me to take a stab at it?
How about you go first, then I'm trying to find a link to something. So you go first.
Okay. From time to time, we've offered the 8-unit team teaching experiences in the spring. It's much more common in the fall. For the CIS, I want to just tell you, we don't offer it every year. We offer it maybe every other year, and I don't know if we're going to offer it again. So having said that, every once in a while, I will teach a standalone immigration and education class. So some spring offerings on different topics, but CIS, I don't even actually know if we're going to teach it again. So this might even be the last time. I do want to say, I forgot to say that if you're someone who likes learning outside of the classroom, we're going to be taking a lot of trips all over Los Angeles so that you could see the sort of immigrant landscape. Everything from the Byzantine Latino quartile over on Normandy and Pico to Alvera Street here in Los Angeles to Chinatown. So we're going to be taking lots and lots of field trips. We're also going to go to theater and music events. For example, we're going to be going to the Hollywood Bowl and hearing about hearing a concert. And we're going to go to several plays. Pasadena Playhouse is one of them, all of them around immigration. This sometimes can interfere with practice schedules. What I can promise you is that we will put out a schedule at the beginning of the semester in terms of what our activities are going to be. And you can either negotiate that with your coach, or you could just tell us, I'm not going to be going on this field trip because I have a game or whatever. Did that give you enough time?
Yes, I got it. Thank you. Okay, yes. So first, I'm just putting in the chat a link to all of the health justice courses that'll be available in the fall. So I believe that there's 8 of them total, and they all have reserved seats for first years. One of them is just a 4-credit FYS on performing disease, taught by Professor Sarah Kozin in the theater department. So if the 8-credit class isn't going to work for some reason because of timing, all of these courses are options to participate in that kind of broader initiative. And who knows about the spring? Doesn't the spring feel so far away? I don't know.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Plenty of questions coming in. I know. I feel like we can a lot to say about how these students engage in the year, but I guess just to get right into the logistics, someone wants to know whether it would feel redundant to do both the summer health justice program and then the first year seminar too with the same topic. Would it be overlap, or are they going to be distinct in content in sort of form?
Yeah, great question. So the summer virtual course and the fall courses have no content overlap. The summer class will have a kind of 1-unit introduction by all of the professors who are teaching in the fall, but the content will be completely distinct. So you can sign up for both and have a super rich and deep experience with those topics.
Perfect. And then just while you're on the mic, Professor Morrissey, for that 1-unit summer course, will there be a grade and will that affect the Oxy GPA? I know everyone's already doing the calculations.
Yeah, that's a great question. I suspect, see, this is where I need to look. I believe that there will be a grade that will affect the GPA, but I suspect it might be credit, no credit.
And that's typically common, just for those of you tuning in, for classes that are only 1 or 2 credits. Typically an Oxy class is 4 credit units, and does factor quite a bit into your GPA, but for 1-unit, 2-unit classes, they are going to be weighted as such, you know, and are oftentimes in that vein. Great. Well, Professor Christianakis, Tammy is curious, for the immigration semester, how foreign language experience might be utilized, and whether we're looking at other forms and crises around migration, especially, you know, in response to what's happening in Ukraine at the moment. Fascinating.
So the Spanish, any Spanish or any language that anyone knows will be helpful insofar as understanding the language of the students or the people that we might be working with for tutoring or educational work. It might be used in some of the texts that Professor McManus is going to be, so the films and the fiction that she's going to be using, but all of the instruction is in English. So having said that, there might be some kinds of projects where one could challenge themselves to use Spanish in, for example, we ask people to put together a video on voting. And if you wanted your video to be bilingual, right? And we ask you to take certain positions on certain like propositions around English usage, for example. If you wanted to reach a Spanish audience, Spanish speaking audience, of course you could. The semester is really built around California immigration. That's why it's called the California immigration semester. And so as a result, we'll be talking a little bit about refugees and different organizations that work with refugees. But we're not going to focus on Ukraine specifically because we haven't seen an influx of that community in California, but we will talk about the global issues of refugees and immigration and what that means at our borders.
Awesome. Someone has asked, how do we go about registering? And I just want to share my screen really quickly again, to kind of talk through what that looks like, because both of these programs in the fall do have registration different than how you might normally register for classes, and that you'll be doing it through the new student webpage. So for those of you that are ready to go up and sign up, if you go to your new student guide, again, that's oxy.edu/new students. The new student guide is right at the top. If you go to that advising and course registration page, you will see these special programs right here, both for California immigration semester as well as the Envisioning and Enacting Health Justice. And so if you go to either of these pages, you will see at the bottom of the pages an opportunity to sign up. So yes, this is different than how you will normally sign up for classes. Typically, you would sign up for your first year seminar on the release date, and it will be done through, I believe, your My Oxy page. If you are at all interested, if you think you'll be interested, and for both of our professors, correct me if I'm wrong, because the student says, what if we sign up now and then we meet with our advisor during orientation and we start to wonder, maybe this wasn't the right program for us. Maybe we'd rather take a more traditional semester. What could that look like? Is that possible, or are they locked in once they submit that form?
So let me start with why students might be worried about being locked in, right? So first, I think you shouldn't be worried about it. But if you are, one reason you might be worried about it for the health justice course is because you are a pre-health student and you're worried about taking your pre-health or pre-med requirements. So we've thought about that. Like I said, we've taught this course a lot, and we have designed the times and the course itself to fit around the pre-med requirements. So most of the pre-med requirements are taught during a time that our class is not taught. And taking 8-credit class in the fall is absolutely consistent with meeting your pre-med requirements. In fact, it's not an awesome idea very early in your career to take a bunch of the same kind of course, right? So notice that the CIS, the 4 credits, are all 4 different kinds of courses, different ways of thinking, right? So that's what you really want in your first semester. And so, sometimes people think, oh, I should get all of like my math and science courses or something like that in the first semester. That's not true. What you should really be doing in your first semester is making progress on your core requirements, which both of these special programs do, right? And learning different ways of thinking. You're at a liberal arts college. So hopefully that talks you out of worrying about it. We can absolutely get back to you about what would happen if you, I'm sure at any time, like, you can't be forced to do something at any time. You can drop a course. It might be a little bit complicated if you do it after classes start, but everything can be managed and found a solution to.
Absolutely. I'd say that if this is content that is exciting you, that you're interested about, there's no need to doubt yourself, especially this soon in the process, that you do have 8 semesters of Oxy time. And so I think there is often a fear that if we don't start off just right, everything else is ruined, and nothing can be more far from the truth. I think those first semesters can be so useful in realizing what does work and what doesn't. And Professor Christianakis, I'm so glad you sort of brought up alums, because I think these first year seminars in a lot of ways can pull students in directions that they didn't even realize they were compelled. Professor Morrissey, I've told you this before, but I always think of Garrett Van, who came to Oxy, get ready to study pre-med, pre-health, and did a first year seminar. It's slightly similar to kind of the themes you're talking about now, but looking at health and humanities, and found himself so enjoying the content that he ended up becoming a philosophy major. And I think we put so much value on really letting yourself kind of be moved by the kinds of conversations you're having, and letting yourself listen to that and really reflect on what that dialogue is telling you. There's a shameless plug, all of which to say. Someone asked about the California immigration semester tailored to the immigrant experience. And whether all 4 of the courses are required, which for those of you that are watching, yes, they are all required. But Professor Christianakis, do you want to talk about kind of how the curriculum kind of, I guess, engages or interfaces off the immigrant experience? And I realize that's kind of a loaded phrase in many ways, but I mean, what say you to kind of the question?
So first I have to apologize because I teach karate and I'm in a karate studio, and there's going to be background noise because I'm in the dressing room right now. So if you hear kids doing karate, I'm sorry. So it's a loaded question, not because it's problematic, but because we're going to sort of break apart what the immigrant experience is, right? There isn't one, there are many immigrant experiences. So we're going to be looking at many of them. And not only that, but and I like this question because it gives me the opportunity to say that the topic of immigration is, first generation, second generation, third generation. Immigrants are not just only the people that come here from another country. It's also their children, who might be 1.5 generations, or their children who are born here. And some children are born here and some have come from other countries, not even their home country. So people make stops along the way, and so we'll be looking at many different immigrant experiences, but also that if you are, I'm a child of immigrants. If you are a child of immigrants, or if you are an immigrant yourself, or if you came over very young, or you were, if you grew up in, for example, an ethnic enclave where everybody spoke your language, and it wasn't standard English, then this class will speak to many experiences like that. And you'll have an insight that might be a little bit different than other people, and we welcome all of those insights. You will have a position that we get to explore in the class.
Awesome. Well, then the last question that I suppose we'll end on, and Professor Morrissey, this one will be to you, is just speaking a bit more about the content of envisioning and enacting health justice. I don't know if the questioner has any particular, sort of content questions in mind, but if there's any sort of seminal text that frame it, or questions that really kind of guide what kind of the semester is going to be ultimately trying to answer, that it might be a great place to kind of start.
Sure. Yeah, great. Okay, so we have 4 big units in the course. The first is that kind of introductory unit, both to the kind of way that historians think and to the way that philosophers think, right? The kinds of questions and texts and tools that we use to ask and answer questions. And in addition to that, we're going to, from the philosophy side, set up 2 kind of normative frameworks, kind of moral frameworks. One that comes from clinical medicine, right? The obligations between the provider, or the provider has to the patient, or the kind of moral context of that dyadic relationship. And on the other hand, the moral normative questions that arise in public health, right? The idea of thinking about ourselves as a community. So it turns out in philosophy, whether or not it should be true, those 2 normative frameworks get treated completely separately, which is something we're going to be thinking about throughout the course. In that introductory unit, my colleague, Professor Upson-Saya, will also introduce students to the material conditions of the ancient world. As a kind of first pass, a first start into really immersing yourselves in that kind of the world that she's studying, right? So she really puts a heavy emphasis on first trying to understand, and always trying to understand, the people that you're learning about and talking about. In the second unit, we're going to go into a deeper dive into that relationship between the provider and the patient, and we're going to focus on issues of communication, and in particular, communicating about pain, right? So pain is something that's really difficult to talk about, right? It's something that you can't experience somebody else's pain, but is at the heart of that kind of provider-patient relationship. It's also something that is fraught with what philosophers call epistemic injustice, right? Communication around pain is heavily racialized and gendered. And so we're gonna kind of start teasing apart what the kind of norms of that communication should be. There are also a whole host of ancient texts about what that relationship ought to be and how it ought to go. That we're going to be looking at. I hope this is the right level of detail for the questioner. The next unit will be on reproductive justice. Again, historically focusing on ancient gynecology and the contemporary philosophy, focusing on what kind of reproductive justice, focusing on the conception of autonomy, really ought to mean. And finally, we're going to extend that discussion about autonomy into end of life. Well, both not just autonomy, but also provider conversations and pain and epistemic injustice into end of life decision making. Okay, great.
No, I think that's super helpful. I think I find it, I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to explain it. No, I believe that is kind of the questions that, yes, wonderful. That is all the questions that we have at the moment. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and thank our professors, Claire Morrissey and Mary Christianakis, for joining us. One last time, I'm just going to remind you all of where you can go to register for these classes now, should you decide that, yes, this is in fact a program you would like to take advantage of, which is on the new student page, that's oxy.edu/new students. Under the new student guide, you would go to the advising and course registration tab. And if you slow down to special programs, you will see both programs are linked. And if you click on either of these links, it would take you to the program homepage, which includes a registration option at the bottom, the interest form here. The recording of today's program will also be available back on the new student page right under special programs. So if you'd like to tune back in tomorrow or later in this week to go over, reflect on what we've talked about, you can do so there. But otherwise, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. I'm glad that you all are getting excited about the fall. I think there's a lot to look forward to, and potentially even the summer, if you are taking advantage of the 1-unit summer health program on health justice, which again can be found as part of that, and I believe is linked in the chat box. Gosh, well, enjoy your June. Stay in touch with us. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to reach out to the admissions office anytime at admission@oxy.edu or call us at 323-259-2700. We are happy to connect with you. But otherwise, have a great evening wherever you're tuning in from, and take care. See you all later. Stop sharing. Wonderful.